Today on the Retirement Halftime Show, a looming retirement crisis. Too many people at every age aren't preparing for retirement. The first steps to take to get on track. And understand how revokable trusts work. Why they're a better option than a will for some estate plans. Plus, building a team around you. A key lesson from Butler University's athletic director, Barry Collier, that you can take to the bank. And how FHA loans work. The reasons why home buyers may want to consider one. Now, on the Retirement Halftime Show.
You wouldn't play a game the second half the same way you would the first, especially if you had the lead. This is the Retirement Halftime Show, helping you maintain your lead in retirement.
Welcome to the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm Heather McWilliams, and joining us is Alex Joyce with Rejoice Financial. Alex, the other day I read something that said only 25% of people age 60 to 65 have enough money to retire on. Is it fair to say we're in a retirement crisis?
I would say that is correct. I mean, it's difficult to even think about that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that most people, when they walk into my office right now, the common theme is, are we in a recession?
Right.
And of course, the recession, that question is personal, right? How does the economy, how does inflation, how does increased interest rates, how does where we are affect you directly?
Yeah.
And I think that once we understand that, is it recessionary to you personally? And then we look at the actual data behind it, which is, what is the definition of a recession?
Right.
Which is 3 negative quarters of GDP, gross domestic product. And it hurts, it's painful,
Yes.
right? And retiring today is not like it used to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we look back at like my parents and their parents, I mean, pensions were something you got.
Right.
Right? It was to be expected.
Yeah.
You did your time, you did your 25 years, you did your 30 years, you leave with a pension, you got your health care taken care of, Social Security was very stable.
Right.
Right? The structure was there and your employer took care of it, right? It's just how life worked. That's a little volatile now.
It sure is.
Right? I mean,
sure
pensions
is.
are one thing in the past. Defined contributions versus defined benefit plans are they're very scarce.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we look at that and we think, well, is the administration really going to provide Social Security for seniors? It becomes even more volatile, right? It's a more political play, but it's totally different, right? I mean, people just need to save.
It is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Will Social Security be there for people like you and I when we retire? We don't know, right? But how do we stay on track?
You know what? I think, just as I would tell a client of mine that drugged their kids and grandkids to my office, and they say, this is the guy you need to talk to.
Yeah.
My recommendation or my advice or my opinion would be, open a Roth, right? For savings. Look at your HR paperwork, you young people, to make sure that you're at least taking advantage with 100% of the match.
Yes.
Pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Be disciplined about your saving. Understand that financial planning isn't a word for the more mature,
Right.
if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
It can start today.
Yes, it should.
Being educated on how a budget works. I know these are things that they don't teach in school.
Yeah.
Right. When I was going to school, we didn't even look at a spreadsheet.
I know
It is only when I was studying and getting certain designations that they're really focused on P&L.
Right.
It's
true.
It's difficult to even fathom that. But now we're in a world where really a lot of people are searching and reaching out for financial literacy, and it's like, well, where have you been?
Where have you been?
Where have you been? And so,
Can I, and not to interrupt you, but I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are thinking right now, can I take money out of my portfolio to pay for current expenses because inflation is crazy?
Can you? Yes. Should you?
Should you?
Right? Is a different question. If someone must. It's like when individuals ask me, when should we, or what is the most efficient way to file for Social Security? I say, think of these three things.
Yeah.
The need for income.
Right.
Right. Your personal health. Right. And then your longevity. And when you consider that in conjunction with what you just asked, well, listen, if you've saved that money, you save that money for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Perhaps retirement is a thing in the future, and it's just not. It's not tangible yet.
Yeah.
But you really need that money today.
Right.
In order to get you there in the future. Well, when you look at it and you sit down and you do the math on it, well, they need the money now.
Yeah.
And so we just want to make sure we calculate, the age, because if you're younger than 15 and a half, of course, there's a 10% penalty. If you've never paid taxes on the dollars, you got to pay taxes on it. And so understanding what those things look like, again, an advisor such as myself or my team.
Yeah.
Right? We're here to definitely help coach through that. We don't care how much money you got, and we don't care how young or mature you are.
Yeah, and really the time is now. So if somebody wanted to come into your office and talk to you, how do they go about doing
Heather,
that?
they just need to call, right? They need to call the number below. They need to text the number below, hit the QR code, and just take that leap of faith and make today the day.
As always, Alex, great information, and make sure you stick around. There's a lot more coming up.
Coming up next on the Retirement Halftime Show, do you understand how revocable living trusts work? We'll make the concept easy to grasp and show you the benefits of one. Plus, building the right team around you is a critical key to success. According to Butler University's athletics director, the one lesson you need to learn before creating your financial team, and financial planning isn't just about investing and creating wealth. Learn the intangible effects of creating a plan that works for you. Text Alexander today and schedule a visit to discuss your financial goals for tomorrow and beyond. Text 707-REJOICE.
The journey to retirement takes many twists and turns. Don't take that trip alone. Let the team at Rejoice Financial be your co-pilot. The expert team of financial planners can create a roadmap that gets you to your goals. They'll work with you to create a financial plan that gives you confidence and peace of mind. Start the process today. Call 317-903-9157 or text 707-REJOICE. Rejoice in your retirement.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by Rejoice Financial.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce, and with me today is Alan Kowalski. He is our wealth strategist and also attorney. We're here to serve the client or serve the family in front of us. We want to discover, what are we trying to do? What is the objective? What do we want our assets and our money and stuff to do? And so maybe touch on just maybe some basic understanding or education with a will versus a trust-centered planning.
Well, thanks, Alex. Will versus a trust. Well, I just want to give you a little context, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Estate planning, we talked about its purposes a little bit earlier, I mentioned, but now let's talk a little bit about the tools, okay? Yeah. Core to estate planning are going to be what I call core documents. Everyone's going to need a document, the following documents: a last will, a financial power of attorney for your financial decisions if you're incapacitated, and what is now called an Indiana Advance Directive, which has merged what was formerly the living will and the healthcare power of attorney. Okay. So those three documents everyone's going to need. And I'm coming back to your question about the trust. Sure. In combination with that, to carry out your estate planning, you want to coordinate assets that can be titled. You want to coordinate how your property's titled, things like your homes, your bank accounts, your cars, and your beneficiary designations on things like your retirement assets and your life insurance. Those titling, the beneficiary designations, and those core documents are going to make up the basic tools, okay? And for many people, that last will and testament is going to accomplish their goals. Some people are going to need a trust, okay? So the main dispositive document for many will be that last will. Where's your, who you're leaving in charge when you pass away for your estate, and your estate is essentially everything you own when you die. And what do you want to do with it? Who do you want to leave it to? There are, I don't know how far you want me to get into this at this point, but a trust in this context is a potential fourth core document, is a revokable living trust I'm talking about, because trusts come in a myriad of forms.
Don't they?
For hundreds if not thousands of purposes, okay? Right. So to narrow it down for this education, the fourth core document that we're generally considering for clients is a revokable living trust. And what does that mean? I always think it should be called a living revocable trust. It's a little easier to understand. It's living because you're creating it while you're alive, because a trust can also come into being by the terms of a will when you pass. But this is a trust you create while you're alive, and it's revocable. Okay, so what is it? It's kind of a bowl or a box that you put your property in while you're alive, and you can take property back out of it if you want, or you can undo the whole arrangement. I don't know how much you want me to get into at this point, the reasons you would need a trust in addition to a will, or...
I think we could talk about it all day. I mean, right. I love estate planning, right? I really do. And I think that it is something in our practice that, again, you have to ask yourself, and our viewers have to ask themselves where they are in life, right? Does this topic relate to any of the where they're at in terms of a situation, right? Not necessarily aging, right? But perhaps, as you just mentioned, maybe they have. Maybe there's an amount of assets, or there's a purpose, right? They want to jump over kids to go to grandkids, or they want to live charity, or they want to donate, or maybe there's a tax efficiency question. Perhaps that there's property. Maybe there's an LLC or multiple. It just really depends on
numerous reasons. Yes,
so many reasons.
Yeah,
right. And it really just depends on, in terms of advice, in the style and bandwidth of the advisor, right? Mm-hmm. Are you getting your needs met, or is there I always say there is a time and place for certain advisors. And so we always use this like mountain concept, Alan, you know this, and it's like climbing Mount Everest, a lot of training, a lot of adrenaline that goes into that. You reach the very top, you stick the American flag out there, and you're looking out and you're excited. You are, you made it, and you kind of look out and it's like, wow, how am I going to get down from this thing? And you're anxious and your anxiety. Such is true with the first half of someone's financial life. And I think as people build this wealth, and I think as people save in their pension pennies, right, and they're raising a family, and they're buying down debt, and they finally make it to close, or if not retirement, I think the priorities, if you will, coming down that Mount Everest, I think the priorities change. And I think that's the purpose of this conversation, is to really allow our listeners to maybe just focus on, is the advisor or the style advisor I have appropriate for my current situation? And I think that sometimes we call it non-communication, right? Where maybe the communication of which that your advisor is meeting or answering the phone has maybe dwindled a little bit, and maybe the expectation has changed. Your style, your life has changed. And I think the reason we do this, and the reason we have a person like you on our team, is so we can properly manage those expectations, right? Because we know that as people mature in life, their life changes, right? People are entering their family, perhaps grandchildren,
right?
And then perhaps people are exiting their life as well, perhaps parents and grandparents, right? And that is situational. And I think that if we can sit down and we can have an educated, focused conversation on where they are and what they're trying to do, that takes a person like you, mm-hmm. right? I have my place in the practice, right? I own the firm. And one thing my mentor said, and I believe in it, is you have to hire people sharper and brighter than you. I am not a lawyer, right? Nor do I want to be, Alan. And that is a compliment, by the way. Right? That is a compliment. And I think and you do it really well. I mean, you have helped hundreds of our clients. I mean, you have, when people come in and we have a conversation centered around estate planning, or they have a legal matter, or they have a questions because your background is beyond not only, but the foundation is on the wealth management side as well.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, maybe tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've spent a good, my career has been kind of split between traditional law practice with focus on estate planning and tax planning, and with another foot really firmly in the financial services industry. So I've worked for some large firms and some mid-sized firms. Very familiar with retirement planning as well.
Yeah.
Though you've got other expertise in addition, but it's really nice to have that overlap, because of retirement planning naturally overlaps with these legal and estate matters.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes, it does. And we're blessed to have you as a part of the team. Alan, I really appreciate you, man. I appreciate you being a part of the team, and I really appreciate your insight and education for our viewers. A lot of people have been watching this show for many, many, many years, and to really get to that next step and that next level within our show and within our practice, valuable asset. Don't change the station, folks. You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. We'll be right back.
Still ahead, how Butler University's athletics director uses the past to make decisions today that guarantee success tomorrow. How that strategy can work for your financial portfolio. Plus, the benefits you'll see today by spending just a few moments creating a financial plan.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by Rejoice Financial.
Planning to win. Coaching strategies for financial success. Here's Alexander Joyce and Butler University Athletic Director, Barry Collier.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce, and with me today is Athletics Director, Barry Collier. And Barry, what an opportunity and a pleasure to just, sit here and conversate with you more than anything. Our theme of our show, as we just kind of briefly touched on, is you wouldn't play a game the second half the same way you would the first, especially if you have the lead. And in my industry, I'm not that it's anything like your industry and experience, but one of the things that we're doing when we're coaching our clients, right, and I'm coaching our team, is we have to have a certain layer of confidence. And most of all, what I tell our clients is they need to know and have confidence that we know, right, and know that there's some things that they are uncertain about, right, and we know that they hire us for a specific reason, whether that's tax planning or tax filing or managing their assets appropriately according to their risk tolerance, or just maybe it's the goal of leaving money behind. But nonetheless, it's a holistic approach. And so what I wanted to kind of do, Mr. Collier, is just kind of understand what your, maybe objective or theme is when it comes to winning, right? Because you are, as we just mentioned, multifaceted, right? I mean, you've been a coach, you've been a player, right? You've been a boss, right? You've been an athletics director and in this seat for almost 20 years. So, I mean, how do you keep your composure all the time, right? What does your confidence look like going into this thing and making sure that people understand what the objective is and how do you define that every step of the way?
Well, there's a lot of layers there, Alex. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, sir.
And I would say that the single most important thing are the people and the quality of those people that you have, both from integrity, intelligence, motivation, work ethic, communication ability. The people involved, the head coach of a program is critical. And I know that you talked to Thad at one point, Thad Mata, our men's basketball coach. And the quality of that leader is really, really important. So having said that, we're in the business of higher education. And so the quality of that coach needs to be a person that understands the goals that we have for our athletic department and for the university, which primarily centers around education and helping young people ballpark go from 18 years old to 22 years old. And when they come away from Butler at the end of their careers, we would want them ready and positioned, understanding what's ahead of them as best they can at 22 years old, sure. But equipped to handle as much of adversity as they can, because we're all going to face that from time to time. So I go back always and point to the quality of the people that you have, because you can end up in a pretty good place on a regular basis without any guarantees, right? There are no guarantees that this is all going to work out perfectly, but I think you give yourself the best chance to succeed when you approach it that way.
Yeah, I think that, that's interesting you say that, because one of the things we try to do with our clients, and they expect results, just like you do, right? I mean, just like your head coach does. I mean, you're overseeing the operations in terms of athletics from, I mean, how many different departments or teams?
22 teams.
22, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, right? And so when we think about that, I mean, personally, when I'm like, that we have a lot of clients and there's a lot of expectation, sure, and they all want results, right? And there's no guarantee. But at the end of the day, if we have fundamentals, right, and we have a strong foundation, a belief system, right, and we have a process that is clean and we can walk somebody through that process, we can properly manage expectations and then understand that, hey, you know what? We believe in the process. We built this plan for a reason. And the trust factor is there in front of us, plus data. And we can make decisions based off that data, right? I mean, I'm sure that it's not that easy in your position, but I'm sure that there has to be some kind of, without projecting out too far. I mean, you, from what I understand, the program's made some pretty big changes here recently, right? And those things didn't happen overnight. So let me just ask you this, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but how far, when you look at data, do you project out before making a decision?
Well, that's a really good question. I think you have to make decisions based on what has happened up to now. And then you have to do what you're talking about, projecting success or failure going forward. How are things going to be going forward based on what you know? and you only know what's current or behind you, right?
Right.
So it's all taken into account. In athletics, there are a number of factors in terms of the where we put the emphasis on the success of a program. For a coach to be successful, we would want them to be the leader of a program who provides outstanding student-athlete experiences, support on the student side and the personal side of that human being, as well as the support and development of the athlete side, physical, mental, skill-wise. So you really need to provide that support as much as possible. And when your coaches have to do this too, athletic directors the same way, you're trying to determine how this is going to play out in the future, right? And provide this as strong a team as you can in the case of the competition. But I also believe that there's a confidence level that comes when there has been historic success. And the example I'll point to again is Thad Matta's historic success, his career success. Is hard to argue with. I mean, in my opinion, he's a future Hall of Famer.
Right. I mean,
and
it's just not luck, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time till that happens. And it's not by luck. It's by all of the things that he puts in place, and then executing and performing and having that data to look back on. So it seems to me that anybody would be more confident with the person that's proven themselves over time.
Right.
Than somebody with a limited amount of experience. And as enthusiastic as we can get, it sure does help to know the data behind the decisions we make. So I think there's a pretty good parallel there to what we're talking about.
Sure, I agree.
Next, you can still buy a house if your credit score isn't where you want it to be. Details of the type of loan that may be perfect for your situation, and why financial plans do more than just chart out your financial future. The intrinsic value you'll see today coming up. Text Alexander today and schedule a visit to discuss your financial goals for tomorrow and beyond. Text 707-REJOICE.
Why pay more in taxes if you don't have to? Our certified tax advisors have a few openings remaining on their schedule and are offering tax analysis, preparation, and filing of your personal and business taxes starting at $199. Call and schedule today.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by Rejoice Financial.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. I'm your host, Alexander Joyce. With me today is Tim Ayers. We are talking about the different types of loans, mortgage loans. He is our mortgage guy, a part of our team, and with him, we are certainly better off because there's a lot of us here on the investment and planning and legal side and tax side that are not well versed when it comes to mortgage loans. And so I appreciate you being here and educating the public, right? I mean, you've been doing this. How long have you been doing this now, Tim?
About 35 years.
A long time.
Yeah.
All right. A lot of wisdom there. A lot of interest rate variation in that. And so let's just jump in, right? I know we talked about conventional loans and we'll talk about VA loans, but let's jump into FHA loans. What are they? Who are they for? Let us know.
Federal Housing Administration is the one that administers the FHA loan, and they are government loans, so they're government backed, and as a result, the rates are generally a little better. But if you could qualify for a conventional versus an FHA, I would put you in a conventional because the PMI or the MI is much less attractive on an FHA loan. They're great first-time home loans, first-time home buyer loans, in the sense that they require a lesser down payment, no matter what your income is, by the way.
Okay.
So they don't have that income cap for the low down payment. You can, be making $200,000 or $300,000, and still, if your credit is having some difficulty, you've been over a few bumps and maybe some moguls in your road, then an FHA might be the way to go.
I see.
Getting maybe some help on credit repair, which is something I kind of do. I mean, that I do. I really do help, but an FHA loan is really, again, competitive rates, low down payment. You can buy your first-time home. It's a great option for you until maybe your credit situation betters, and then you just move into a conventional loan and get things better.
Thanks for that.
Sure.
One of the questions I would have with that is if you start out with an FHA loan, you refinance, can you then go conventional?
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Can do that. That's the goal?
Yes.
Is that the goal? Okay.
That would be the goal because let's say it takes you 2 or 3 years or so to get your credit score where it really needs to be to get your better pricing. You have the ability to, your house, the value of your home should increase during that period of time as well. And so if you get to that point where you're 80% loan to value, in other words, the value of your home is 20% higher than what you owe on it, then you don't have any PMI, so you get rid of that PMI, you get great rates, probably better rates because right now they are up there.
High, right?
Yeah,
they're high.
But again, you're marrying your home, you're renting your rate, and the same applies for FHA loans. You can refi an FHA loan as well.
I understand.
And you can do that for debt consolidation. You can do that to bring down your rate, or you can do that for a myriad of other reasons. So
I see.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. You know that, and I love learning. and in these 5 minutes, I've learned quite a bit, especially the differences between loans. You know, when I first bought my house, I've owned lots of houses. I've invested in multiple houses. I've flipped lots of houses. I have made money in real estate, then I have lost money in real estate. And I think a lot of that has to do with being knowledgeable about, the areas that you want to execute. You know, when it comes to purchasing a house, I know how to do that, and I know how to write a check for a house, right? But when it comes to getting in there, doing the work, making sure we have the efficiency inside of the house in order to make a profit, that's a little bit different. And I know we'll talk about that in terms of like refis, pulling cash out of the mortgage, and etc. So I thank you for educating us on the various types of mortgages, and I'm sure we'll get deeper as time goes on. I thank you, Tim. You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show. Stick around, folks. There's more show to come. Do you remember this? How about that? Do you remember? The journey to retirement hasn't always been easy. I'm Alexander Joyce. Let us build a retirement plan you can rely on. A financial plan that gives you confidence and peace of mind. A legacy plan that protects them. And let us start that process today. And let us help you rejoice in your retirement.
You're watching the Retirement Halftime Show, powered by Rejoice Financial.
Today's tip of the week for stronger financial health. We all know we should save money, but that's easier said than done, unless you spend some time writing out your financial plan. One study found that Americans who have a financial plan also have healthy money habits. Your plan doesn't need to be complicated and doesn't need to take a lot of time to create. And it's a valuable endeavor no matter how much money you have, because having a plan gives you a measurable goal. A financial plan also lets you take stock of your entire financial well-being, which may lead to better spending habits. Financial planning isn't just about investing. It's also about building confidence, security, and quality of life. Talking to a Rejoice Financial Money Coach may just be the motivation you need. Today's tip of the week for stronger financial health.
Thank you for watching the Retirement Halftime Show. If you have questions about today's show, give us a call, send us a text, or go to our website. Most importantly, maintain your lead in retirement. I'm Alexander Joyce, and I'll see you next time.